Hi, I'm Sandy Scott. I am an administrator at Truman Elementary, and I'm going to kind of give you an overview of a school improvement plan that we have implemented based on some current concerns that we have had communicated to us through our PTO. First of all, our problem, because there's always a problem. What we do know is we know that the students at Truman, they do worse in reading than they do in math. The data shows through their test scores that statistically they are scoring a lot lower in reading than they are in math. They also lose ground as a cohort moving through the school. So not only are they lacking in each individual grade level, it's progressively getting worse. Parents have commented negatively on their views of the reading instruction that's being provided. That was communicated through a letter from the PTO president to myself. Another thing that we know is I've had our reading specialist make observations of the primary grade levels reading instruction and identified weak areas and also offered recommendations for that reading instruction. We also know that there is a grant available to support the implementation of a research-based reading program. So those are all the things that we do know. What we need to know is what are the perceptions of not only the parents, but the students, the staff, and all of the parents all the way around. What are their perceptions of the current reading instruction that's being provided? We also need to know what is the analysis of the demographics in correlation with Truman test scores. Is there specific demographics that are scoring lower on test? If so, are there additional accommodations that we need to make to address those concerns? Or are there accommodations that should be made already that are not being addressed as well? These are definitely things that we have to know before moving forward in this improvement process. We also need to know what specific student processes are being implemented that have positive impact because we tend to hear about the negative, but we also need to know what is working. There was improvements made over a year or two in the second grade classroom, so maybe we need to evaluate what is that teacher doing that is working for them and how can the rest of us, how can the rest of the staff take on to that. We also need to know, is there any level of differentiation occurring in these classrooms? Through observations of the reading specialist, we've kind of discovered that there's not as much, but there might be. So again, getting those perceptions of the staff and what is working for them will definitely help us through this process. The main problem that we have right now is I need to organize the school and the district to support the grant proposal to best meet the needs of all students. I feel this grant will definitely offer our school the supported curriculum that we need to move forward. Currently, what we use is outdated, and we need to make sure that all stakeholders are on board and there will be a higher buy-in and a better success rate. Our proposed plan to make that happen is quite long, but any proposed plan would be. First of all, we need to distribute perception surveys to the students, staff, and parents at the beginning of the school year to kind of assess how they feel about the current reading curriculum that we have, both positive and negative, kind of a little bit more in depth, not just to, submit a survey monkey and say, do you like our program? What are the things that they like? What are the things that they're lacking? They communicated through their letter to the PTO that they feel there's a lack of spelling instruction. What other things do they feel is lacking? What things does the students feel it's lacking? What are some things with the curriculum that they like, that they don't like, as well as staff? Staff's the one who's implementing all of this, so we definitely need their buy-in as well. What are some areas that they like about what's being taught, and what are some areas that they think need better improvement? Because they too might feel that the current curriculum that is being taught is outdated. They might not feel passionate about it. So we definitely need to gather those perceptions first. After we do that, we need to analyze these results in a user-friendly fashion so we can actually use the data. Instead of just collecting it, we need to make it accessible to everybody so it's easy to read, it's easy to understand. We can clearly look at a graph and say, oh, this is where the students' perceptions fall. This is where, the parents, this is where the teachers' perceptions fall. That way we can actually use that data to see how we all feel about it. Using those results as well as the observations that the reading specialist made will help to analyze the perceptions of the current reading curriculum, and demonstrate if there is a need for change in that curriculum. Is this the real root of the problem? Based on my own observations, based on the observations of the reading specialist as well as the parents, them communicating their needs. I do feel this is the root of the problem, but again, this will kind of solidify that this is indeed what we need to fix to improve our reading scores. Phase 2 of this plan of action would be developing an user-friendly analysis demonstrating the gaps in student performances over the last 5 years. So not just, yes, our scores are dropping, but where are they dropping and what areas are they dropping? All the grade levels have experienced negative growth in the last 3 years, and that's something that is devastating. And not only that, but as the students progress through the grade levels, those scores just continue to drop and drop and drop. If you don't have that primary foundation of reading, it's not going to get easier. And so these are definitely things that we need to put together, not only for my need, but to show it to our staff as well, because that's kind of a very important thing. Again, I would be working with the reading specialist to kind of come up with a final analysis of the classroom observations that she or he had made, demonstrating that there's definitely a need for a research-based reading program. It's not consistent across the grades, which therefore is creating inconsistent test scores. One teacher might be implementing really good reading strategies where another one might not be. So again, coming up with some final analysis to show our staff that yes, there is a need for this. We'd also need to begin to evaluate research-based curriculums that could be offered and could be purchased through the grant at each individual grade level. You know, what do we want to teach? What are some things that we need to look for in our reading curriculum that is going to help to close these gaps? I believe that through spending multiple professional development days dissecting these very specific things are going to create a much higher stakeholder buy-in, especially through our staff, since they are the ones implementing these strategies, teaching it on a day-to-day basis. Their buy-in has to be there. They have to be on board with this change. And so by taking those professional development days, they will feel invested in what it is that is being changed. We also need to implement professional development in services to kind of dig deeper, like I had said, as to what it is they're looking for. Use this to set goals for our new reading curriculum. We don't just want to adopt something and say, hey, this is, what we're doing, the end. No, we need to set those goals, and then we need to figure out how we are going to reach those goals using that specific curriculum, designing activities that will help us reach those desired goals, whether it's the complete adoption of a new guided reading program or whatever that needs to be. It needs to be developed as a staff, so every stakeholder is invested. We'd also need to develop a statement of commitment with the superintendent to submit to the State Department of Education, as well as creating a budget of activities to submit along with the actual application for the grant. So after going through these professional developments and deciding on a specific reading curriculum together, then we'd actually have to follow through with the process of applying for this grant so it could be adopted through our school, so we could adopt a new reading curriculum. Phase 4, this is one of the most important phases, and it actually kind of occurs from phase 1 onward. I, as the administrator, will be attending PTO meetings through this process, kind of explaining what we are doing as a school to help address these needs for student improvement along the way. After the previous phases have been completed, and if we are able to adopt a new reading curriculum through receiving this grant, and kind of as that process is developing, I will have open forum nights with the parents kind of communicating, hey, you know what, we know there's a problem, we see there's a problem, the numbers show there's a problem, our experts in that area show there's a problem, we are fixing this, and this is our plan for fixing this, and just communicating with them so they know that we too want students to learn their very best. after that actual curriculum has been adopted by the school, I would like each of the specific grade levels to hold their own reading nights where they offer parents kind of an inside look on the curriculum and how it's being taught, how they too can support that reading curriculum at home, what they can do as parents to further educate their children to be supplemental to help them make more gains, so then we can all see an increase in student learning. One of the big things that we really need to implement with this is the evaluation of the effectiveness of this reading curriculum and instruction. Do this through assessment, do this through observations, but we can't just say, oh, we've adopted a new curriculum, we're done, problem solved. Like, we have to go in and we have to evaluate, whether that's through peer evaluations, whether that's just through administration, or if I continue to have the reading specialist go in and offer peer mentoring to each of those individual teachers, offering insight. I know sometimes it's kind of hard to receive as an educator, because we are typically doing the very, very best that we can. I have no doubt that any teacher in Truman Elementary is doing the best of their ability, but we also have to be open-minded enough to receive other people's input that will help student learning increase. Promoting the success of all students in category 3 based on the observations in the classroom for more differentiated instruction needs to occur. We'll do this through the curriculum being adopted. The majority of research-based curriculums do offer tiered levels of curriculum, so there shouldn't be a problem with that, as well as a shift in teaching instruction, and that again will be done through professional development opportunities given, as well as through peer mentoring. One of the facts is reading instruction has not created a positive growth in standardized tests for results for Truman Elementary. I mean, that's just a fact. And through the implementation and observations of this research-based curriculum, we hope to have a positive effect on student learning. Category 4, some of the things that I was processing through doing this. First of all, my big question, this is me stepping back as a student and not as an administrator, is why did it take the voice of the parents at Truman Elementary to address the falling test scores? Like, why didn't the administration catch this sooner? That was probably the number one red flag that went up in my head. As an administrator, I was definitely feeling inadequate, and not doing my job for not catching on to this trend sooner, but also excited for the positive impact that is going to be made on student learning from here forward. Some of the things that I was valuing definitely is the perceptions of students, staff, and parents. All these things have to happen in order to have that stakeholder buy-in. Valuing student learning processes and the demographics, these are all very, very important things that all play a role in this improvement process. Some of the questions that I had is, what are we going to do if we do not receive this grant? Do we have a plan B? How are we going to improve what we currently have if this grant does not go through? I also wondered how I could encourage stakeholder buy-in through teachers, students, parents, and what if test scores are not positively impacted when we go through this process? What if it doesn't make a difference? Just some questions I had. As far as the perceptions, Standard 8, the effective educational leaders engage families in the community in meaningful, reciprocal, and mutually beneficial ways to promote each student's academic success and well-being. This is shown kind of a lot of information happening right here. Basically through engaging families in decision-making through seeking parent and student perceptions done at the beginning, through facilitating parent information nights will allow them to buy in, through offering more opportunities for families to become engaged and informed in the curriculum being taught to students through parent information nights, addressing concerns through improvement plans and evaluating the progress throughout the year, not just waiting till the end, but doing it throughout and presenting the data in an user-friendly format. These are all things that are going to encourage that stakeholder buy-in and have everybody be a part of that ongoing dialogue and be part of the decision-making process. Another thing as far as using the actual data, receive parent concerns through the PTO, taking that data in, identifying gaps, investigating further through a reading specialist, making observations and recommendations on current reading curriculum, and communicating these findings and a plan for improvement at the PTO meeting. Those are all ways to use that data to help make improvements. We also have the rules and regulations through the PI of all students, protecting that, as well as FERPA and analyzing students' test scores and how they correlate with demographics. These are all ways that we will help protect that privacy and the laws in which we have.